this, but in terms of delivering a baby and it looked like you tried to hide it, we do have to have the police involved.
And nothing was crying. It came out with nothing.
We discovered a dead baby in the bathroom.
Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. It came out of me and I didn't know what to do.
Lexi, I told you about this.
But
I just asked you, baby, to tell me the truth.
This is a story of Alexi. She told her mom she had some back pain, so her mom took her to the hospital. At the hospital, she said she had to use the bathroom. While in the bathroom, the nurse heard flushing and the water running for like 20 minutes. She then later came out of the bathroom like nothing was wrong. Later, when the cleaning lady was cleaning the bathroom, inside the trash can, they found her newborn baby dead. They called the cops, separated her from her mother. They transported her to a bigger hospital so she could have the proper test. Then she was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. Her case has bounced around from court to court, and it's making its way to the New Mexico Supreme Court. If you'd like to follow the details of this case, make sure you give me that subscription. Yo, you ain't gonna believe this crazy wackadoo. Her name is Kaylee Sanders. She's a 21-year-old, had a normal upbringing, was shown lots of love, but started doing them drugs. And after being up for just a couple days, she's over at a friend's house, old man, helping him rake leaves. Said that he mumbled something under his breath that made her mad. So she shot him. And when her friend tried to come and intervene, she shot her too. Acting like nothing had happened, she went back to her grandma's house, was hanging out with her brother. Her brother accused her of drinking some beer of his. She shot him too. Grandmother frantically called police. When the police show up, she's screaming, waving the gun around. She almost got shot herself. In the interrogation, she said she just snapped. She admitted she'd been on drugs for a while, been up for a couple days. So they threw her right in jail. The next day, they found the two other dead bodies. They went back to question her. She kept yawning and laughing and acting like she didn't know anything. So they left her in that jail, and they sentenced her to 55 years. Crazy bitch. It's really the drugs. Y'all need to put them drugs down, kids, for real. Just put them down. Put them right now. Welcome back, my fantastic crime fanatics. Let's get into it. Allie, a sweet, driven, amazing student at Ole Miss in Mississippi. She made lots of friends, was involved in a lot of activities. She hooked up with this asshole Brandon, and this guy's a real piece of work. His dad had a lot of money, so he thought he could just rule the world and be an asshole to everybody. All of Allie's friends hated Brandon. Many a nights they held her head while she cried over the things he had done to her. I mean, that should have been her first clue. Anyway, a couple years passed, and she's still taking the abuse. And then she got pregnant. What do you think happened when she told Brandon she was pregnant? Yeah, of course that immature freaked out and told her to have an abortion, blah, blah, blah. What else did he do? He went out and got a gun. There's even Google searches of him looking for silencers. He texted Allie, telling her he wanted to make up, asking her if he could come over. That was the last night she was seen or heard from ever again. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Her father called the cops. They started scouring CCTV footage where they saw her heading to her apartment. And then on patrol, cops found her body near a wooded shed next to a lake. So when they tried to get a hold of Brandon to ask him to come in for questioning, he said he'd be in the next morning, but then failed to appear. So they tracked his ass down and arrested him at the gas station hours later. A search of his truck revealed a letter saying that the end was near. This was definitely pre-planned. The detective said he had never seen a body that was shot so many times. The gun matched the same gun Brandon had. With all the outstanding evidence, the jury had no problem sentencing him to life without the possibility of parole. I mean, just look at this fresh little tart. They're gonna work that booty hole over real good in prison. Go on now. Go on and get that lovin'. Oh yeah, that's right. Allie, It's very unfortunate what happened to you. I wish you would have left the relationship years ago. I hope your family can have peace. If you enjoyed this video, give me a like so someone else can enjoy it too. Let me tell you about this story of Tiffany and her boyfriend Chris. Everything seemed cool at first. A happy little life. They got married. They were both massage therapists. They got a studio together. They had a wonderful thing going for a couple of years. But then Chris decided he was going to have him a little affair. The affair lasted for about 2 years. You know, you have to give it to Tiffany. The way she handled it was pretty good. She forgave him. She never forgot. As the years passed by, Chris got a little more aggressive, you could say. Right about the same time, Tiffany met this new guy. His name was Jake. They met at work. They really hit it off. She enjoyed texting him. She never went to his house or anything. But one night, when Chris came home, Tiffany had made some soup for him. So he ate the soup, and then he says things like, "Why do you make this greasy soup? You know I don't like this shit." And I think Tiffany had enough, because she texted Jake and she was like, "You know what? I've had enough. I want to come over." So Jake gave her the address, and she went over. And she stayed 5 days doing, well, you know what. Then when she came back, she told Christopher she wanted a divorce. Chris begged and pleaded with her. He was like, "Please, please, don't get a divorce. Let's do counseling. Like, I'll do anything." She was like, "Nope. The damage is done." She filed for divorce, and she wanted to go back over to Jake's house. But Christopher was like, "Nah, you're not taking either one of my cars over to Jake's house. I can take you and drop you off." She's like, "You're not dropping me off at his house." He was like, "Well, I'll take you close enough. I can drop you off and you can figure it out." And she's like, "Okay." That was the last that anyone ever heard from her again. He handcuffed her and then shot her in the head. And then he chopped her up into 16 pieces and stuffed her in garbage bags. And then he hid her out back in her shed. He tried to get one of his buddies, Randy, to help him. Called him up in the middle of the night, said, "Come over here, I need your help." Randy shows up. Chris is like, "Look, I shot my wife." Showed him a picture. "I need your help disposing the body." Randy's like, "Hell nah." Hell nah. And Christopher said, "If you don't help me, I'm going to go inside right now, kill all my daughters, kill you, go to your house, and kill all your family." So he helped him move the body from the house out to this shed. So of course, Randy goes to the cops and tells them this, and the cops immediately get a search warrant for his house and show up with the search warrant. When they execute the search warrant, they find everything. The house was a bloody mess. They break into the shed in the back, they find the garbage cans, they find everything. During the interrogation, Chris was all acting like, "Oh, I just dropped her off at her boyfriend's house. That was the last time I seen her." He didn't even know the cops were at his house. They'd already found her body and everything, so he just looked like a total idiot. They let him finish telling his little lies, and then they locked him up, where he still resides. The trial only lasted for 5 days, and it only took them 3 hours to find him guilty. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. During his sentencing, the judge really chewed his ass. May you rest in peace, Tiffany Morrison. Poor Jessica. Her friends found her locked in her car, covered in poop. Earlier that day, her friends saw her in her car acting strange before she died. Cops checked CCTV footage and discovered there was a man following her the night before she died. So they tracked him down and questioned him. He said they met on a pay-for-play site. The autopsy came back and said she definitely died of strangulation. But how could that be? The video also showed the man leaving after their encounter and she was still alive. What was going on? The cops were pretty much clueless until a college professor came forward and explained. It's a medical condition called death by choke. The victim doesn't die right away. So basically when he choked her, her brain started shutting down part by part. She wasn't dead right away. That's why she was in her car acting strange. She was there, but she wasn't all there. And slowly but surely the rest of her brain shut down, causing her to eventually die hours later. Our thoughts go out to you, Jessica Kelleher. Yo, this one even had me wondering for a minute.
So you got this girl named Jessica. Unfortunately, she was found dead by her friends. She was locked in her car covered in her own feces. Earlier that day, friends said they had seen her acting real strange in her car, making weird hand gestures and stuff. So the cops checked the footage and found that there was a guy following her. He said they had met on a pay-for-play site and they were just having a casual encounter. The autopsy came back and showed she was definitely killed by strangulation. But how could this be? The CCTV footage showed the guy leaving after they were done and she was still alive, and her friend saw her earlier in the car. The cops were baffled until a college professor came forward and said it's actually called death by choke. It's when someone gets choked so hard they don't die immediately, but their brain starts shutting down. So while she was in the car making weird gestures and stuff like that, her brain was basically shutting down and she was halfway dead. And unfortunately she died several hours later. Crispin went to jail for the rest of his life.
Yeah, this is Chloe. She's pretty pissed. She tried setting up one of her good friends, Terrence Robinson, known as a little local drug dealer. Chloe ordered up 100 hits of ecstasy. When Terrence showed up, he was met by Keenan, Chloe's ex-boyfriend, and his friend Benjamin. They pulled a gun and said, "Give me your drugs." Terrence was like, "Nah." So they shot him, and he died. When the cops searched through Terrence's phone, they saw the text messages bringing them to Chloe. In the interrogation room, you could tell Chloe was never told no as a child. She's being told no now. Just look how she acts. But it didn't matter. All the crying and screaming and kicking and slapping. In the end, the judge gave her 20 years for second-degree murder. Keenan got life behind bars. Benjamin got 18 years. Do you think this little girl was raised right? Let me know in the comments section. Today's victim, 24-year-old Tiffany Adams, last seen on November 17th, 2014. She lived in Sullivan, Indiana, with a population of under 4,000. It was a small community. She was 8 months pregnant at the time. Now let's look at the suspects. This is her boyfriend, Donnie. They had a great relationship, but unfortunately, after she went missing, he skipped town. This is her father. His name is Bruce. Bruce loved Tiffany like no other. He said he went to the store, and upon his return, she was gone. The cops checked his alibi, and it checked out. Then we have her stepfather, Brian. What an asshole. Tiffany hated Brian, constantly made posts about how he controlled her mother, and she did not approve of him at all or his actions. He was a very angry, controlling person. So the cops had their work cut out for them. And as you would know it, a few months later, her body was found in a field, decomposed by some farmers. She was found with a red sweater tied around her neck, and her cell phone was with her body. So the cops went through her cell phone, and right before she died, guess who she had been texting several times? Was it Donnie, her boyfriend? Was it her father, Bruce? Was it her stepdad, Brian? No, it was none of the above. It was her stepbrother, Jonah. He secretly hated his stepsister for years and had planned on killing her as soon as she made posts about her father. Even in jail, he told his cellmates how he enjoyed killing her. He got 2 life sentences because she was pregnant when she died. 13-year-old Lauren is walking home after school with her friend Michaela. Out of nowhere, shots rang out. There were no witnesses. There were no leads. This is the case of Lauren Landavazo. Welcome to Glitch Pulse Crime. Alright, this case brings us to Wichita Falls, Kansas. This story is about a 13-year-old little sweet girl. Very caring, compassionate, always laughing, always playing with friends. Just really loved life, really enjoy having a good time. Every day, she would walk to school with her friend Michaela. It was always the same path, it was always the same friend. On this particular day, things took a turn for the worse. She was walking home with her friend Michaela, and then a vehicle pulls up, and then shots rang out. Michaela and Lauren both were shot and laying on the ground. Her mom was expecting her to be home from school by this time, and her mom's friend pulls up and says, "Hey, is Lauren here?" Her mom said, "No, why?" Her friend said, "There's some kids down. You need to come quick." As her mom runs to the scene, she sees her daughter laying on the ground, just staring at her face. She knew that she was gone. Her dad could not accept it. He rode in the ambulance, and on the way to the hospital, he heard the paramedics say, "We have a heartbeat." But unfortunately, it turned out to be a false heartbeat, and she died from her wounds at the hospital later that day. People were crying and upset in the streets. You had Democrats and Republicans both joining together to mourn what had happened. The cops even told the mom, "Look, we may never find who did this." But out of the two girls, Michaela lived. She was able to give the cops a description. She said it was a guy with shaggy hair, and he was driving a gold SUV. So the cops and the whole neighborhood were scouring for this gold SUV. And it didn't take them long. When the cops pulled up on it, sat back a little bit and observed, guess who they saw? A guy with shaggy hair. He was pulling a rifle out or something, trying to conceal it, wrap it in a sheet. The cops knew they had their guy. So they just simply waited and followed him as he took off down the road. And then when he got to a stoplight, they switched on them lights, baby, pulled him right over. After running his license plate, they saw it was Cody Loft, a 20-year-old. He lived within a couple blocks of Lauren. As they pulled him over, they asked him to consent to a search. Cody knew he'd already cleaned the vehicle, so he consented. But he didn't clean it good enough. Because what did they find? They found brass knuckles and they found a shell casing. In Texas, brass knuckles will get you arrested. And that's exactly what happened. They snatched him right up, brought him in for questioning. In the interrogation, he didn't hold back at all. It was almost like he was excited to explain what he had done to this young girl. He was animated and excited as he spoke. It was rather disgusting. I mean, what is a 20-year-old doing checking out a 13-year-old anyway? Hey, if you've made it this far in the story, why don't you do the little clicky things under the video? It'll really help me out. I appreciate it. Now let's get back to the case. So in the interrogation room, he opened right up. He lived at the house at the end of the block, so he could watch Lauren and Michaela walk home every day. He would watch them. He told the cops that she was the most beautiful girl in the world. Her eyes were the most beautiful thing he had ever seen, and he would watch her every day like a sicko. One day, about a year prior to the incident, he approached Michaela and Lauren, and he tried to talk to Lauren and just say, "Hey, what's up?" But Lauren was rude and told him, "I have a boyfriend." So he started following her, and he would see her with this boyfriend, and he thought that he was a scrubby little dude. He wasn't a man at all. And this angered him, and he became jealous. He also told the cops that he talked to the devil, and that this kill was considered an assassination. I mean, what a sick fuck. He also told them he had fantasies that he just wanted Lauren to treat him right. He just wanted to feel loved by her. I mean, Jesus Christ. So with his confession, it only took the jury less than an hour to find him guilty. Life in prison with no possibility of parole. Plus he got 20 years for the attempted murder of Michaela. We all know it doesn't matter how many years he get, he's going to Texas State Penitentiary, cuz we all know what those hogs do in there. They're gonna pass him around like a Twinkie with sprinkles on it. These sweet girls were attacked for no reason. I mean, my heart really goes out to Lauren's parents. I mean, no parent should have to go through what they had to go through. I hope you enjoyed this case. I'll see you on the next one. Yo, we're back with another one. This is a story about Mackenzie. Mackenzie went missing after returning back to college. Her dad called the cops and asked for a welfare check. The cops didn't find anything when they went to her dorm, so they started working backwards, tracking when he got off the plane. They saw on CCTV she had gotten to an Uber. They questioned the Uber driver. He said that he had taken her to this park and it had a lot of dirt in it, and that he dropped her off, and the person that she was meeting up with, she was acting as if she had already known him. So when the cops went through her social media accounts, they found out that she was on several sugar baby accounts, and she wanted to be a stripper. Cops set up a geo-tracking fence around the park where she was supposedly dropped off. And who did it ping on? One of the same people that was in her sugar baby accounts. This guy. When the cops approached him, he acted very calm and said he didn't mind sitting down with the cops and explaining everything. He said that they had met online and they were simply talking, and that was it. The cops asked for his phone, and he would not give it up. So the cops took his phone and searched his house, searched his car, and boy, guess what they found? Knives, guns, gas cans. They said everything smelled of a rancid odor. The neighbor said he was trying to burn something the day before and it smelled horrible. And they found the body and she was stabbed 27 times, and stab wounds matched the size of the knives the cops found at the house. He had tried to strangle her and that failed, so then he stabbed her, and that was the cause of death. During trial, ex-girlfriends came in and said that they were scared for their lives trying to escape him. One had to jump through a window. One was choked and hit in the head. With all of this evidence, the jury took 3 hours to find him guilty, and they sentenced him to 2 years in prison. Kidding. He got life without the possibility of parole. Serves him right. Mackenzie, we hope your soul rests in peace. Hey, we reached 100 subscribers. Thank you guys very much for joining the community. And if this is your first time here, maybe subscribe. We have a pretty good time here. You see this creepy old man? Turned out to be a serial killer. I'm gonna tell you how he was brought to justice. Welcome back, everyone. I'm so excited to share this next case with you. And if this is your first time here, we do true crime. You're more than welcome to join the community. Our victim is 23-year-old Angelica Cluck. Angelica was a sweet little girl. She had just moved to the chapels. She was continuing her studies in religion. She lived in the chapel house out behind the church, and she lived alone. She was very quiet. She always kept to herself. It took her being missing 5 days before people even realized she was gone. When they could not find her, they called specialists to the church, and they searched high and low, and they tore the church apart. They looked in walls, they looked under the floorboards, and that's where they happened to find sweet Angelica Cluck's body. Her mouth had been gagged with tape, and there was blood everywhere. It was going to be very difficult for forensics because the body was underneath the church in dirt, but they managed to retrieve the body. They took swab test and did an autopsy. The autopsy found that she was killed by blunt force trauma. The swab test showed that her private parts were abused. There were no clues. She had no enemies. There's literally no motive. So the cops scoured the crime scene. And after searching the whole church, they found in the garage several droplets of blood in areas where blood had been cleaned up. They knew it happened in the garage. So the cops started asking friends and anyone close to her if they had any information. They were able to search pretty much everyone that worked at the church and everyone who had come in contact with her, except one person. This was the maintenance worker for the chapel, and his name was Pat McLaughlin. The cops ran his history and found out that Pat McLaughlin was not even a real name. After doing some more research, they figured out his name was Peter Tobin. And Peter Tobin was a real sicko. He had previously been in jail for kidnapping young girls. His ex-wife testified in prison that he held her at gunpoint to abuse her private parts. So a manhunt was launched. Warnings went out, his face was on the news, and after a couple days, 400 miles south of this crime scene, a nurse called in and says that she knows Peter, but he went by a new name. His new name was James Kinney. So the cops traveled 400 miles down and they arrested James Kinney, aka Peter Tobin. While he was arrested, they tracked his locations and realized he had murdered 2 other girls. All of his DNA was all over Angelica's body. He was found with a knife on him. This knife had Angelica's DNA on it. His watch had droplets of her blood still on the watch. During questioning, he would not admit to anything. It's okay though, with all the DNA evidence, the cops did not need anything. They sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. While in prison, he claimed he murdered 48 girls, but the cops have found no proof of this. However, for the 3 girls that he did kill, we hope your souls rests in peace. I know there's got to be a case you want to hear about. Go ahead and let me know in the comments. And always, thank you for joining me. I'll see you on the next case. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, yo, I want to be a serial killer. But for Richard Beasley and the situations in his life, made it very easy for him to become what he became. Welcome back, all my crime-loving enthusiasts. Today we're talking about the tale of Richard Beasley. As always, I'd love to know what you think about the case in the comments. It started from an early age. He was abused by his dad physically. He was sexually abused by his neighbors. He grew up in Akron, Ohio. I mean, first of all, this place in itself used to be a booming community. Now, man, it's looking pretty run down. People that live there, they gotta try to figure out other ways of means, if you know what I'm saying. Straight out of high school, he tries to become a machinist, but he loses interest. Goes through a couple odd jobs here and there. Nothing really pans out, so he becomes a burglar. A couple months later, he's arrested for burglary. The judge throws the book at him, gives him 40 years, but he actually only serves 4, then he's released. After being released, he heads back to Ohio, and he met this girl, and they got married, and they had some kids, and he was a real good dad too. I mean, a real good dad. I mean, he was there for his daughter 110%. His wife kept begging him to leave the biker gang, but he did not want to. Everything was going good, so she didn't mind. The bills were paid, he was home at night, everything seemed okay. And then she found out he was selling illegal firearms and doing robberies, basically a con man again. How did she find this out, are you wondering? That's a great question. The cops raided her house looking for these firearms. They tore through everything. They flipped her bed, tore open her couch cushions. She was pissed. But they found them guns, and he got sentenced to 7 years. But during that 7 years in jail, he found God, and it seemed to be going good, because as soon as he got out, he immediately becomes pastor. Chaplain Rick, they called him. And he was legitimately helping people down on their luck. He helped with soup kitchens, volunteer work. I mean, he was doing this every day until he got hit by a dump truck. And I think this is where his whole world changed. Because he got hit by the dump truck, he broke his bones. And when that happened, he was prescribed Oxycontin. So basically, he got addicted to Oxycontin. But he didn't know it yet. This was just the beginning. So he's prescribed Oxycontin, trying to get over his injuries. He gets a huge lump settlement from being hit by this dump truck. What does he do with the money? All good stuff. Buys a huge house right in downtown Akron, Ohio, helps the local neighbors around the house, turns the house into a halfway house. Everyone's saying, yo, Chaplain Rich is such a great guy. He also befriends this 16-year-old named Brogan. Brogan is younger than him, so he kind of helps him out like a father figure. He helps him around the halfway house doing certain things. Life seemed to be going okay for a while, but the drug addiction was slowly taking over. Slowly but surely, he started scamming the court for money, letting people just coming out of jail stay there, calling it a halfway house. But slowly but surely, those same poor girls looking for help were turned into prostitutes. When the cops started taking notice, he knew he had to do something because he did not want to go to jail. So he came up with the perfect scheme. I'm just going to find someone that looks like me, unalive them, and assume their identity. How hard could it be? So he places an ad on Craigslist saying he had 600 acres of farmland, he needed a caretaker, basically start a new life, and boy, did he have some responses. He had over 100 replies. So he just went down the list, trying to pick out the ones that were on medication, basic I'm gonna kill you and take all your stuff mentality. His first victim was Ralph Greger. Ralph shows up for the interview, they share a meal together. Ralph, Brogan, and Richard go walking in the wood together. Ralph shot in the head. Richard now becomes Ralph. 2 months later, when he's done selling all of Ralph's things and can no longer pay for drugs, he has to do this again. Post another ad, and here we go. The next victim, David Polly. David drove 10 hours to visit and meet Rich and start this new opportunity. But the same thing happened to him. He was taken for a meal, taken to the woods, unalived in the back of the head. Rich really doesn't waste any time. Within 2 weeks later, he already has his third victim, Scott Davis. But this time, this is where it gets crazy. After the meal and during their walk in the woods, as Scott is about to get shot in the back of the head, he hears a click and turns around and sees Rich standing there with the gun. The gun had misfired. Rich pulls off another shot, but only hitting Scott in the elbow. Scott runs for his life out of the woods straight to the police, gives them all the information. The cops start looking for Richard before he can kill again, but it was too late. He had already had his fourth victim on its way, Tim Kern. Tim shows up, same unfortunate outcome. He was unalived in the back of the head. But with Scott's info, they tracked the Craigslist ad to an IP address, which was tracked to Richard's room. When they went to arrest Richard, he was not there. But who did they find? Logan. And under questioning, Logan cracked. Told them everything. Hell yeah, I helped Richard murder and bury those bodies. It was almost like he was bragging. So they tracked the cell phone and found Richard and arrested him immediately. Brogan and Richard both got charged with murder. The cops were going to give Brogan a lesser sentence of only 20 years if he would testify against Richard. But he did not take that offer. So they gave Brogan life in prison without the possibility of parole. Richard was sentenced to death, as every serial killer should be. You should definitely burn in hell for the people that you killed, Richard. But I have to think to myself, how different life might have been for you if not been hit by that truck. Tell me what you think in the comments.